With God's hope, I try to be a voice of encouragement. With God's love, I try to exemplify Jesus. If you have your Bibles with you, please open them to 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21. Everybody with me? Nobody brought their Bible? I guess this is a Catholic crowd. For to this you have been called, because Christ also suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps. Jesus told parables. I am a follower of Jesus, so I write essays and poems and songs. Here's a poem called In His Steps. We are not called to walk on water, or change water into wine, or multiply loaves and fishes, or raise the dead, or be scourged at the pillar, or walk to Calvary with a cross on which to be crucified. We are not called to do what is impossible for us. Christ performed all of those heavenly deeds at a 3-year pace. It is for us to follow in his steps. Live for righteousness without being self-righteous. When my grandfather was coaching at Wrigley Field, my brothers and I sat on an army blanket next to the Bears bench. After the games, we waited for him outside the Bears locker room. Regardless of the outcome of the game, he said to each of us, "Hi, pal, how about a kiss for Grandpa?" My brothers and I also attended Bears training camps at St. Joseph's College in Rensselaer, Indiana. At the start of our training camp visit in 1966, my grandfather called us over to his golf cart after practice. He gave us some pocket money. When tight end Mike Ditka observed the transaction, he came over to participate. Ditka asked, "Hey coach, how about some of that for me?" Alice replied, "Never mind." His favorite parable was the one about the workers in the vineyard. On February 1st, 1976, the Bears moved to 55 East Jackson Boulevard in Chicago. It was across the street from Old St. Mary's Church. On Saturdays, my grandfather went to confession there. Then he came back to his office to say his penance. It was a great privilege to work with George Hallis on a day-to-day basis. There were no problems, only opportunities. One morning at the office, I was telling my Uncle Muggs and my father that I had had speaking engagements the last 3 nights in a row. My grandfather happened to be walking by and overheard the conversation. He asked, "Where are you speaking tonight?" I replied, "I don't have a speaking engagement tonight." He said, "That's too bad." Frequently we ate dinner together after work. When a Bears fan would stop by our table to ask for an autograph, he would always comply. He loved the Bears and appreciated any sign that a fan did too. For family dinners, I often drove him out to my parents' home in Des Plaines, the city of destiny. He asked me about my girlfriends, and I asked him about his. We had no conflicts because he never dated anyone under 48. During one drive back to his apartment, he was silent for a long time and seemed to be very angry. Finally, he said, "When you have bread at dinner, cut the bread in half and then butter it. Don't butter the whole piece." I didn't ask why. Once he had spoken his mind, the issue was forgotten as far as he was concerned. He lived to be 88 years old and often said, "Life is too short for grudges." One day he called me into his office. He said, "Get a master's degree." I asked, "Will you pay for it?" He replied, "Yes." It was a very short meeting. I went to DePaul University at night during the off seasons. In February 1977, he sent me a wonderful note. Long ago, I determined that work exceeds talent. Work every day, by writing every day, make me even more proud than I am of you. Love, George. He wanted me to call him George, but I felt uncomfortable. My mother was very much against it, so I went back to calling him Grandpa. During Easter week of 1977, the television movie Jesus of Nazareth was aired. For Easter Sunday dinner, I drove my grandfather to my parents' home. After dinner, I suggested that we watch the final installment of Jesus of Nazareth. After the program, my grandfather said to me, "Thank you for having us watch that." On November 20th, 1979, George House received the Sword of Loyola at the Conrad Hilton. Here is what he said. Reverend clergy, Mayor Byrne, distinguished award winners, members of the dais, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. 60 years ago, I offered my heart and my helmet to the Lord. My heart is still beating and my helmet still fits. I pray the divine coach finds me to be worthy on his first team. Thank you. The last 5 years of his life, his grandchildren took him out to dinner